Hello, this is the 273rd edition of Catch of the Day, available on the Branch Talk YouTube channel. Today we're going to continue reading from a book written by Trent Wildy entitled The King of Crisis in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Starting midway on page 19, midway of the first paragraph. And I will not betray our Lord, who demonstrated servant leadership and told us all not to lord it over one another. Mr. Chairman, this proposal focuses attention on internal politics rather than the call of Jesus to save the lost world, a lost world. Therefore, I cannot vote for this document, and I hope that the House will vote it down. 4.07.33 to 4.09.36. Such strong words from so many church leaders should surely awaken us all to get down on our knees to seek God for guidance. Leaders on both sides of this issue are taking the matter very seriously. We should too. Now that you hopefully understand the basic facts of the crisis, we are left with two questions. First, where did we go wrong that led us to this point in the first place? And second, what is the solution? Regarding the first question, I'd like to quote a couple remarks that Ted Wilson made during the meeting we have been reviewing. The understanding that we need to have at a group is that whatever decision is made, that we will work with that decision, says Ted Wilson. And really, that's probably the crux of the matter as to why we have even come to this point, because it does focus, although the subject of women's ordination, and I am speaking very openly with you and frankly, is what has driven much of the anxiety and tension, but that's not really the issue to which we are addressing ourselves today. The issue that we are addressing ourselves is, should organizations be willing to abide by the rules that they themselves have set up? And that when we vote something, especially at the highest level, and you can't get much higher than the General Conference in session, that needs to be respected. 35.46 to 36.57. The reason for this discussion since 2015 is that we have had entities who have decided to go their own way in opposition to what was voted at the General Conference session. And we've never had that before. We've never faced that. So it's a matter of us understanding that when we take a vote at the highest level possible, remembering that we don't have a prophet to ask, we don't have the Urim and Thummim, we only can rely upon a vote at the General Conference session for any matter that, if it is not agreed to by the individuals after the vote, then we have a problem. Our whole church holds together by a wonderful aspect of goodwill. Even though we don't agree at times, we say, this is our church, the church has voted, and we're going to work with the church. And that's the reason for the difficulty that we're facing right now. 3.21.21 to 322.39. It is apparent from these statements that Ted Wilson sees the problem being the actions of certain church entities which run contrary to the decision of the General Conference. Why is it not about whether the actions are contrary to the express will of God? Because, as he said, we don't have a prophet to ask. We don't have the Urim and Thummim. If we did have these things, the circumstances might be different. In other words, from Ted Wilson's perspective, the absence of the express will of God through a prophet or some other clear-cut means of communication, such as the Urim and Thummim, is what leaves us with the General Conference as the highest authority, and to act contrary to it is a lack of goodwill. It will be fruitful to compare this with the perspective of George Knight, who clearly stands on the other side when it comes to the controversy over ordination and authority. At the beginning of his most recent article in Spectrum, he highlights some foundational points. Among them are these. Ellen White had it right historically when she wrote that the very beginning of the great apostasy was in seeking to supplement the authority of God by that of the church. Great Controversy, page 289 to 290. Next, throughout history, the only times churches have had to use force or threats or force to create unity is when they lacked a clear word from the Lord. Next, such is the unfortunate case in the Adventist Church in 2018. Next, as a result, it is with sadness that I feel compelled to write yet another article on the current crisis in Adventism. As a church, we need to not only admit the seriousness of the issues that the denomination is facing, but our leaders will need the courage of the prophets and apostles to face them firmly. Footnote at the bottom of page 20 states, it's footnote number 44, it says, the Adventists, FBI, and the Sticky Wicket Thicket. And there's a website given. Page 21. As you can see from George Knight's perspective, the problem is that some within the church leadership are supplementing the authority of God by that of the church and using, or at least threatening to use, force. Wilson and Knight clearly have two different views of what the problem is and the consequential and consequently what the solution should be. On the one hand, Wilson advocates for the non-compliant entities to be brought into compliance through the method outlined in the recently approved document. On the other hand, Knight would like to see the efforts to achieve unity through compliance abandoned and replaced by an attempt to bring about what he sees as genuine Christian unity, the only basis for which he describes as the clear teaching of the Bible, mutual trust, and the love of God. It seems that mutual trust, in his view, includes allowing freedom for different parts of the worldwide church to adopt different policies suited to their local circumstances. Take care.